to myFutureNC FAFSA Network. We know that your plates are very full serving students, so we are grateful to all of you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Melissa Caperton, and I am the Director of Regional Impact at myFutureNC, which is the nonprofit organization focused on achieving the state's 2030 attainment goal. A few logistics before we get started today. We are recording today's webinar, and we are going to make the recording, the PowerPoints, the resources that are shared today available to attendees via email in the coming days. If you need tech support with today's webinar, my friend and colleague, Lashika Hester, is available to help. Her email and phone number are listed on the slide here. She's also behind the NC First and FAFSA profile that you see there, so feel free to reach out to her if you have any challenges. A big thank you to her for organizing today's event and leading the technology. And a thank you to Chris Charbonneau, who serves as Director of Advocacy and Engagement for myFutureNC, who has led the work for First and FAFSA for our team. We've got a lot of folks joining us today, so you have been put on mute for this beginning part of the session. Feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat box. We will be monitoring that. As we move into breakouts, you will have the opportunity to unmute yourself and ask questions to our friends over at CFNC. We have a rich agenda planned for y'all this morning. I am going to kick things off with a brief overview of the network, how we aim to engage and to support y'all locally as you are working to improve FAFSA completion rates at your schools and in your districts. We will then turn things over to our friends at CFNC, who are hosting and offering 2 learning sessions for you this morning. For those of you who registered for the FAFSA 101, you will stay here with us in the main room and learn from Dr. April Query and Skip Watts with CFNC. For those of you who registered for the FAFSA Tricky Situations discussion, you will be joining a breakout room where you will have the chance to learn from Dr. Juanez Ramirez and Tamika Ruffin, both with CFNC as well. And we are so grateful to our friends at CFNC for joining us today and leading these discussions and learning opportunities and sharing their expertise with us. So thank y'all so much. Wanted really quickly to provide a brief overview of the work we hope to accomplish with the network here. We really aim to create a community of practice where we have practitioners, whether it's our school counselors, college access advisors, Gear Up coordinators, TRIO coordinators, and others, and create a space where folks can come together to share and learn and engage with one another to improve FAFSA completion rates locally. We hope this will be a place where we not only help build capacity and knowledge like we are today with our session, with the trainings today, but also really lift up the effective practices happening across the state that you can replicate locally within your schools or districts. Our hope is that with our time together, you'll be able to identify at least one practice that you can replicate locally. The 49 school districts that are part of the myFutureNC FAFSA network are represented here with the red dots on the map. We are grateful for the work that y'all do day in and day out to serve students, and we're just really excited to be working with you during this academic year. I wanted to share a couple of learning opportunities that are coming up. First, we, as I'll talk about in just a minute, will be lifting up the innovative work taking place across the state with our 2021 FAFSA Innovation Grant winners. That webinar will be in November, date to be determined, and we'll get that information out to you as soon as that is finalized. But you'll be hearing directly from the practitioners in those schools who won that award. Second, we have a reschedule of an event that we had to delay from the spring around supporting students and navigating trauma and grief and stress and the impact on the college going process. We are going to be joined by 2 national school counseling experts, Dr. Kara Ivia and Dr. Laura Owen. That webinar is scheduled for December 14th at 1 p.m. Information on how to register should be landing in your inbox sometime next week. Certainly, if there are other topics that y'all want to learn about, feel free to throw those in the chat today or email me directly. We want this network to be responsive to your needs, and your input will only make it a stronger network. So please feel free to share those ideas with us. Also, wanted to lift up some ways that you can get engaged with the network. Again, encourage you to share the good work that you're doing locally. Send those effective practices to me by email, which is listed on the screen here. We are building out good ideas for newsletters and future webinars, and would love to provide a platform for y'all to share the good work that you're doing with your peers across the state. Second, I am available for district level conversations with your counseling teams to help walk through the tools that I will highlight very briefly this morning, the challenge and the tracker. And we're happy to bring our friends in from CFNC to cover Finish the FAFSA. So please reach out to me to schedule some time. I had the chance to engage with Carteret and Robeson County counseling teams this week, and we would welcome the chance to do the same with your district. And finally, we have a First in FAFSA newsletter, which is sent bi-monthly with resources, effective practices, updates. If one of my colleagues will throw the link in the chat there, you can subscribe to the newsletter if you are not already. And then quickly, we again are happy to schedule some time to dive into these more deeply with your counseling teams, but I wanted to share at a high level the resources that are available to support FAFSA completion locally. And they are the First in FAFSA Challenge, the First in FAFSA Tracker, and then CFNC's Finish the FAFSA, which is a password protected tool that gives you student level data in the CFNC Resource Center. You can access all of those tools or links to those tools through ncfirstinfafsa.com. In addition, you'll find a place there where you can register for the newsletter if you aren't already subscribed. We've got lots of tools and resources out there, many of which link over to our friends at CFNC, the U.S. Department of Education's FAFSA resources, and then some we've created at myFutureNC, like the Mythbusters social media toolkit. So all of those are available out at ncfirstinfafsa.com. That's also where you will find the tracker and our challenge leaderboard. We anticipate that the 21-22 class of 22 FAFSA tracker will launch next week. So you know, the tracker is populated with publicly available data from the U.S. Department of Education's Financial Student Aid Office. They give counts of FAFSA completions and submission updates weekly that we pull into the tracker. The tracker that you saw last year with actual completion rates, we're also using publicly available data from NCDPI, the month 2 principals report, to provide that completion rate. Until those data from DPI are available, we are going to be pulling in the publicly available data from U.S. Department of Ed on completions and submissions. And we've created sort of a calculator, if you will, to help you understand what your current FAFSA completion rates are. So beginning next week, when you go out to ncfirstinfafsa.com, you'll see something like this, a list of all of the schools here. To find the rate for your school, you will need to select your school here. We've pulled in A.L. Brown for the screenshot here. In this box, you will enter your actual graduating class size. And then over here, you will see a rate that's calculated for you. This is what the tracker will look like for the next few months before, again, we get access to that month 2 enrollment data from DPI. And then we will transition over to the auto calculation of the rate that you were used to seeing last year. Also wanted to let you know that the challenge, the 22 challenge, is going to be launched in January as well. Last year we had schools register. This year we are automatically registering everybody, so take that off your plate. All schools will be auto included in the First in FAFSA challenge, which this year will run January to March. Once we get those data from NCDPI, again, the tracker will begin to look like what you were used to last year. This is a snapshot of the class of 21's tracker. If you go out to ncfirstandfafsa.com today, those data are still out there for the class of 21. The current data are not yet available. They're just beginning to be released by the U.S. Department of Education. So we will have those out there hopefully sometime next week with the calculator I just showed you. But once we get to January and are able to auto-calculate rates, you will see something similar to this, where you can begin to sort and find schools that look like you from a geographic standpoint, class size, type of school, and student body perspective. A quick note on the challenge, as y'all might know, we set a goal last year to reach 65% completion, FAFSA completion for the state. At the end of August, we were just shy of that with a 61% completion rate. For the 21-22 academic year, we have once again set the goal for 65%. And to help support FAFSA completion at the local level, we did launch the 21 FAFSA Challenge in January to really help lift up the good work happening at the local level and to recognize both growth and innovation. Schools who win a challenge grant will get $500 to support their local college going efforts. For the 21 challenge, so for the class of 21 challenge, we are going to be using graduation data, which we do not yet have access to from DPI. So those winners of the growth awards will be announced soon. We hope sometime this month. But we are delighted to share the 5 schools that we are recognizing in the innovation grant award categories. We got a lot of submissions from schools across the state and selected these 5 who really demonstrated innovation and commitment to equity in their FAFSA completion strategies. The 5 winners were just announced a couple of weeks ago. At the link at the bottom there, you can find some one-pagers on the approaches that these schools took. As I said earlier, we will be hosting a webinar sometime next month to hear directly from our practitioners at these schools and the effective practices they've been implementing. So congratulations to all of these schools, but a special shout out to 3 of them who are part of the FAFSA network, Statesville, Person, and South Granville High Schools, for the good work that they have been doing at the local level. Thank y'all so much. And then real quickly, wanted to lift up some opportunities that are coming up in 10 days for FAFSA Day drive-in events. This is where students can get in-person support for FAFSA completion. The list of colleges that are hosting drive-in events are here. If there is not one close to you, do not fret. Your local community college financial aid offices are excellent resources of support for your students and families. So feel free, please, to reach out to them and see how you can collaborate on FAFSA completion at the local level. CFNC has provided this graphic of things that students should bring with them to the events. These events, I want to note, are for anyone who needs support with FAFSA completion, right? Whether it's your class of 22 seniors who are doing it for the first time, or students who might need some support with FAFSA renewal. So if you do have a location near you, please do share these opportunities with your students. And then quickly, just a call to action to go ahead and share those FAFSA Day events. Book ncfirstandfafsa.com so you can easily access the tracker when our 22 data are available. All school districts in the FAFSA network have access to finish the FAFSA, but if you don't personally have access to it and are working with seniors through the FAFSA completion process, I've included the email here that you can reach out to gain access to that tool. That is where you can see student level information about FAFSA completion, what errors students might have if they're selected for verification. So you can really make individual interventions with students and support them through that process. And then of course, my email is there. If there's folks in your district or school that we need to add to our distro list, let me know. And again, glad to schedule a district level call with y'all if that would be helpful. And here are the wonderful friends who are going to be leading our discussions today. We have 2 sessions, the FAFSA 101, which will be led by April and Skip, and then the tricky situations, which will be led by Juanez and Tamika. It is my pleasure to turn things over to April, who will talk briefly about the CFNC representatives before we go into our trainings. April, I will turn it over to you. You might be muted, April.
Melissa, while April's getting unmuted there, I'll go ahead and mention that there are CF&C reps across the state. You can see here that we are separated by area code. So we have area codes ranging from the 252 all the way to the 828. We also have 2 Spanish services representatives that represent the entire state. So you can find our contact information here. Feel free to reach out to us for any types of programming in the future. We would love to be of assistance. I'll turn it back over to April. Hopefully her audio is back up.
There she is. Hi, April.
I was muted by Zoom, so thank you for unmuting me. So yeah, I think Skip kind of handled it. So if you go to cfnc.org/events, you'll see all of the virtual in-person programs we're doing across the state. Well, not all of them are up yet, but as we get them set up, they're on there. So continue to take a look. And be sure to head to cfnc.org/C2C for all of the things happening this month for Countdown to College. Our reps are doing in-person programs when appropriate, and then we also are doing lots of virtual programs. So we have lots of things going on, and feel free to reach out to your rep if you need anything. And I'll put the site for C2C over in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you. Skip. All right, folks, if you signed up for the FAFSA Tricky Situations, Lashika is going to launch the breakout rooms now. If you are in the FAFSA 101, don't do anything. You're going to stay right here in this room. For our Tricky Situations learners, a breakout room icon should be showing at the bottom of the screen. Click on that, and in the pop-up, select Join, and then Yes. Again, my friend Chris Charbonneau is going to be heading over to the Tricky Situations training with you. We won't be coming back to the main room today, so thanks again to everyone for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next learning opportunity.